now going to be 11 o'clock in Istanbul. This is where my daughter is. Anyway. Good afternoon. Welcome to the regular meeting of the CRA this Thursday, May 30th. I'm calling the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call?
Chair Carney?
Yes.
Vice Chair
Here.
Burns?
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert?
Here.
Commissioner Casal?
Here.
And Commissioner Long?
Here.
I think technically I need a motion to approve that Commissioner Markert appear
So
by
moved.
Zoom. So do I have a motion? Second?
Second.
All in favor? Oh, no,
Aye.
excuse me. We don't do that here. Excuse me. Would you call the roll?
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert?
Yes.
Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
And Chair Carney?
Yes. Great. You have the agenda in front of you. And if there are going to be any deletions or subtractions or additions or... Okay, so then I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Tracy, could you call the... would you?
Yep. Deputy Vice Chair Markert?
Yes.
Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Chair Carney?
Yes?
And Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Great. We now have our audit presentation. We have our representative here from Markham LLP.
I brought printed in case you guys need.
That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you can show that.
You don't have to.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm assuming this is the one I already saw.
Yes.
Yes, just checking.
See, I just saw this.
Okay, good afternoon, Board of Commissioners. I'm Scott Montgomery from Markham, and we performed the audit of the Delray Beach CRA for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2023. We actually issued our report April 18th. So, and this information I'm covering is almost like 6 months old, so it's historic information. And if you want to flip through the packet, the independent auditor's report, we audited the financial statements of the governmental activities, which is the government-wide financial statements, and then the major fund and the discretely presented component unit of the CRA, and the related changes in financial position and notes, collectively referred to as the financial statements. And our audit opinion was these statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position and the changes in financial position for the fiscal year ended. And this is referred to as a clean opinion or an unmodified opinion, and which is the highest opinion that auditors can provide. If you jump to page 4, printed page 4, this is the management discussion and analysis, and this gives a broad overview of the activities and shows a comparison to prior year. Just to hit the highlights, the assets plus deferred outflows exceeded liabilities and deferred inflows by about $93 million. That's that first bullet point. Net position increased about $18.1 million. And then for the general fund, you had an ending fund balance of about $54.1 million. I'm sorry?
Oh, I said bless you.
Oh, okay. And then there was an increase for the general fund of about $14.1 million. And if you jump to page 13, printed page 13. This is the statement of net position, and in the commercial world, a balance sheet, but this starts with assets at the top and then subtracts liabilities, and then the bottom is net position. And this statement is on a full accrual basis, so this shows all the activities. and it includes capital assets and your debt. The significant changes was cash increased about 12 million from about 39 million to about 55 million. And then the leases receivables increased, and that was due to a revaluation of a couple of the leases. And that's based on your flow of what comes in, and the one for the hotel, I forget the Prime Hotel, that's based on the revenue you receive, and actually in the previous year a lower amount was used, and this year we adjusted it to kind of the current fair value. And then due to city was the other, the liabilities that increased from about 2.2 to about 5.5 million. Debt decreased due to paying off, principal during the year. And then, like I said, overall net position, the bottom line there, it's 92.5 million. And out of your net position, 39 million is net investment in capital assets. That's items you can't really touch. It's not spendable. And then 53.4 million is unrestricted, which can be used for redevelopment activities. And then it also presents the discretely component unit, which is the Block 60 Parking Condo Association, and that's included in the statements, their activity. Okay, and then jumping to page 14. This is the statement of activities, which is equivalent to a profit and loss. It actually, in the government world, it starts with expenses. So you had about 15 million of expenses. And then if you look, program revenues, charge for services was 319,000. Operating grants and contributions was 195,000. And then general revenues, tax increment revenue was about 32 million. This is your largest source of revenue. And then interest and dividends was 466,000. So overall, the change in net position, it was a positive 18.1 million. And tax increment revenues increased 16%. It went from 27.6 million to the 31.983 million. Okay, and then if you jump to the next page, page 15, this is the governmental fund balance sheet, and this is presented on a near-term basis, meaning payables within 60 days, and it doesn't include any long-term activity. Like you'll see it's missing the capital assets and the debt. So this is more like kind of equivalent to your budgetary basis, but the balance sheet. And as mentioned kind of on the statement and net position, the biggest increases were cash that went up about 12 million. Lease receivable went up about 1.2 million to 3.8 million. And then the notes receivable, some of them decreased a little bit. The one that increased the most was Hatcher. That went up from 553,000 to about 1.2 million because there was some a loan made to them during the year. And then if you go down to the bottom, the fund position, you have about 5.2 million in non-expendable or non-spendable items. Most of it's the long-term note receivable, which are broken down up above. And then you have assigned to subsequent years' budget about 44.3 million. and then unassigned about 4.6 million. And then page 16 is just a reconciliation. It shows how we got from the government fund statements to the statement of net position on the government-wide and what adjustments were made. On page 17 is the general fund statement of revenue, expenses, and changes in fund balance. And there was $33.1 million of revenues, about 19 million of expenses. So an overall net change in fund balance was 14.1 million. And then I guess any questions on the statements there? I was going to then go back to the reports in the back. Okay.
You talk about the findings.
Yeah.
You don't even talk. That's right.
So if you jump to page 59, and this is our independent auditor's report on internal control and on compliance and other matters performed in accordance with governmental auditing standards. And that last paragraph, we did report a deficiency in internal control. That was 2022-001. And this is actually, it was reported in the prior year and it got carried forward. And we considered this a significant deficiency. And it was related to a lack of internal controls over the financial close and reporting. And then I can get into that 2 pages later. And then on the next page, the report on compliance and other matters, we didn't have any instances of non-compliance with laws, regulations, grants, or any of those items. So on page 61 was our significant deficiency that we reported, and we said the CRA should implement policies and procedures so transactions recorded correctly and timely, and closing procedures are sufficient to provide accurate and reliable information. And it was kind of related to when we received the trial balance, all the CRA's activity goes into the city, so we need kind of the CRA completed first. And I know the city was pressuring us because of the issuance of the bonds to get those completed. So when we started, we got a trial balance and then had to be updated a few times. And we did have some adjustments, ended up being about 10.5 million of adjustments. Most were internal entity adjustments, just cleaning items up. But we just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. But I know there's already a plan where they've updated the financial policies manual, and additionally they're hiring an additional finance staff to aid in the preparation of some of these reconciliations. And it seemed a lot.
I know the filings were late. I mean, you made a request, and I guess you got the information back late. I know that's been corrected with the hiring of a new person, but the controls that have gone from the same deficiency was reported in last year's as well. So.
And I think,
I'm saying it's significant, but it doesn't affect the quality of the audit. And I don't think anyone's questioning any numbers.
Right.
But it's.
It just, like last year's comment related to, there was an implementation of a new GASB standard. It was related to leases where you had to put those on the books as a right to use asset and then a corresponding liability. And so the previous year, I think, and that's a tough standard to implement. You have to calculate the present value and all that. So that, I think was one of the reasons in the prior year. This year, there wasn't anything. The new standards weren't really impacting the CRA. But I think it was just more, trying to start earlier if we can, since it is a September year end, and if, we do have to get it done to go into the city's books and records, if somehow, that could be, the timeline is probably what our concern was. But yeah, there's no, everything we received.
Yeah, no, I noted that. I'm just saying it's more of like a timing of some of the
Right.
submissions of the reports.
Right. But everything, we did receive then ended up working out or being able to be reconciled. And we do confirm all the balances and that sort of thing. So sometimes confirms come back and then an item might need to be adjusted. Like the city might say, here's our balance, and the CRA says their balance. Or, when we send the loan note receivable confirmations, they might say this is the balance versus what the CRA says. So we end up adjusting, and then everything gets correct. And that was really all we had, subject to any questions.
Any questions?
No, I would just say thank you, and thank you for pointing out to the public that there were no issues with the numbers whatsoever, and it's more that we need to get our information to the city more quickly, because but the problem is we're both in the same budget year, so it's complicated in that sense, because our year ends when their year ends, but they need the information more quickly than we can provide it. And I did read the report, I thank you, and I met with Renee, and we discussed it, and I feel very comfortable. Thank you, Renee.
Thank you.
Did you want to comment, Renee?
Well, yes, Renee Jising, Executive Director. So, yeah, I think there were some timing things. I know when we're trying to close out, we have to coordinate with the city, because a lot of funds that we provide are to the city, so we get billed. So I think some of that, we can work on. We've already started actually asking now for the closeout for this year, so that we can try to get them wrapped up quicker, because we have the city part, we also have our operations too, so it all kind of like falls to the end of the year. And we did hire like 2 additional staff members to help, so I think on that side it's okay. But if we don't have the information, it's hard for us to be able to do it all in a short period of time. So I think we're on a good track for this year to have it quicker. And I know the bond added another layer of emergency to get it done quicker. So, we will make sure that the coming year will be better positioned than last. Thank you.
And I also wanted to thank Renee and Gina for all their assistance. I would get emails at like 10 o'clock at night, or they were, really diligently trying to provide information, and they were very responsive to everything we asked for.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We have public comment. Anyone from the public wishes to comment on a non-agenda item or an agenda item? You comment on agenda items here, right? As opposed to on agenda or non-agenda item. Now is the time to get up and say your piece. Seeing none, we move right on to the consent agenda. We need if anyone has any questions on the consent agenda, otherwise we can take a motion. What, you have a comment?
I do have a comment, yes. I would like to pull the golf cart ILA 7D onto the regular new business. So we can make that 9AA.
Okay, so that'd be 9AA,
Yes.
Would you like a motion to approve as amended?
please.
Thank you. I make a motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
and Deputy Vice Chair Margaret.
Yes.
Great. Old business. Ashlyn.
Yes, so the first item up is the RFQ. This was a RFQ that we've awarded to the listed architects and landscape architects We just had to negotiate the contracts, the agreements, and then now they're ready to be signed. So we need a motion to authorize the board chair to execute the continuing architectural services agreements with the firms listed on our slideshow. They are Curry Sowers, Aguila Architects, Inc., Sinilovsky, Romanuk, Say, LLC, CPZ Architects, Inc., B Architects, Inc., Justin Architects, PA, Netta Architects, LLC, R.E. Chisholm Architects, Inc., R.J. Heisenbottle Architects, PA, Robling Architecture Construction, Inc., the Tamara Peacock Company Architects of Florida, Inc., and Walter Zachariah Associates,
Couldn't we have just
PLLC.
introduced the yellow pages?
Yes, I do have to unfortunately name all of them just so that the record is clear for the motion. If someone would like to make a motion,
Motion to approve,
as stated, yeah.
as stated. Thank you.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Chair Carney?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Margaret?
Yes.
And Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
Right.
And sorry, we also have to approve authorize the board chair to execute the continuing landscape architectural services agreements with the following firms. There's less of these ones. AJT Land PA, J. Morton Planning and Landscape Architecture, Inc., KCI Technologies, Inc., Keith and Associates, Inc., Miller Lake, Inc., and Kimley Horn, Inc.
Motion to approve.
Second.
As read.
Chair Carney?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Margaret?
Yes.
Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
And Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Right. Okay, Renee, we're going to update on the West Atlantic. Are you finished, Ashlyn?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
An update on the West Atlantic Master Plan.
Yes. Okay. So, late last year, there was direction from the board to update the West Atlantic Master Plan, I think otherwise known as the Set Transformation Plan. And the board informed us to seek proposals from consultants that we had on our pool when we originally did this plan years past. So we did, and some of the quotes that we received back for the service were over the threshold where staff could approve. So at the time, the board directed us, if that was the case, to bring it back to the board. So what we ended up doing was engaging with the firm to update the demographics and economic data in the plan, as opposed to doing the full plan to kind of limit the scope, to take it step by step. So we did that. We entered into contract with Business Flair, and they have provided us with some demographics. They're going to update the charts in the plan, which they have not done yet, but we do have that. They're underway doing the updates for the demographics. So I wanted to bring this to the board, because I know we have some new members, just so everyone's on the same page of what we're doing with the update for the plan, and also to request that everyone start thinking about a steering committee. We would like to bring that to the board for selecting steering committee members in July and determine what's the next step. We do plan to have a document to you all probably in a month or two with the updated demographics, and also changing the name, because that was also some of the direction to change it from the West Atlantic Master Plan back to the Set Transformation Plan. So we're doing that in-house by staff. So what you'll receive is, basically that document with notes from the CRA. We went through it to look at things that the CRA can do and now maybe cannot do with the changes to the statute. So after that, we'll kind of determine what's the next step. I think when this first started, there was direction about updating the implementation plan. So I did send you all kind of our internal notes, what we were thinking with the implementation plan related to the CRA. But we will need community input as far as what's next, what's desired as the next steps for the plan. So this is more of an update. There's nothing to vote on, but I wanted to speak with you all at the meeting so you can talk together about the plan, and start thinking about the steering committee members. We were thinking one person per each. It'll be 5 members for the steering committee, and we can maybe ask, Anthea's here, the city if they want to participate as well. And in speaking to Anthea, we're also working on the accessory dwelling unit study. This was mentioned at the goal setting meeting. So Anthea and I thought, to be a little more efficient, that the members of the steering committee for the West Atlantic Master Plan update could also be the steering committee for the ADU study, because the test area is the set neighborhood. That is where the focus point is. So it'll overlap, but again, that'll be, if you all are okay with that, I can talk more with Anthea, but we thought it'd be efficient to have just the 5 members instead of having 10, essentially kind of doing similar functions in the similar neighborhood.
Do there any comments from any members of the commission? Hold on,
Other than
Ms. Burns?
Yeah, other than I think it's a great idea to have just the one steering committee, since it's in the same area. So I think it's a great idea to use that one.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casal?
No, we discussed this yesterday, and I know we're working on, in the short term, we're looking to just update our demographics.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
So the what we have right now from them is just a list, like a few pages of the demographics and information that will need to be entered into the plan. So that's the next step, is to actually update it. So no substance is changing, just so, for the board and community,
Right.
there's no substantive changes. It's just like the numbers, income levels, demographic, that's all that's really updating at this point.
Can I ask a maybe silly question, but what would the steering committee be doing? Presumably, we're getting consultants, professionals to get these demographics. So at this point in time, we're selecting the steering committee for the next phase then?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So, right. So it's basically
have a
taking that
good amount of
information and saying, looking at how the household income
Thank you.
levels have changed,
Got it.
looking at how the neighborhood has changed. Are there different programming things that would want to be in place? Because initially when this was discussed, the board talked about the implementation plan. So that's like the 5 or 6 pages at the end that talks about the programming, the development,
Right.
and what is desired. So I think that's what we're looking at, is what's needed. And then I think maybe after we meet, we can determine, do we need to hire a facilitator or what's next? But the costs that we were getting initially were like $67,000, and we thought it was kind of jumping the gun to do that.
Correct.
And kind of take it bite by bite, because we could hire someone to help us with kind of assessing programming or, and facilitating services that, and put it together with the plan without having that whole full-blown plan update, because it's an update, not a full-blown plan, so.
Right. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Commissioner Long, any comments?
Not much, just glad to see you're moving forward with everything, and I'm on board with combining into one steering committee. I think that's efficient.
Thank you.
Commissioner Markert, I forgot you because I don't see you, but I know you're there.
It's okay.
So do you
I'm
have any
working.
comments?
I'm lurking. No, I think this is the right thing to do. I'm in agreement with all of it. It's the right thing. So I'm in favor.
I'm sorry, you are there on our screen. I see you. I see you right there. There you go. Hey, Tom. All right. So you have your direction, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Is there public comment on this item? This is not. I thought
Well,
it
the
was-
comment was before. If
Beginning.
with the board's,
Oh, I thought.
Is it-
Did I misunderstood it? I thought you could do comments on agenda items. I misunderstood that.
it's up to the board. Is
Up
it?
to the board at this
You
point.
want to make a brief comment?
I have no issue with it.
That's fine, Mr. Ridley.
Thank you. Commission, Mayor, first and staff, thank you for the work. We, as a
Name-
community, my
name and
name is Chuck Ridley. I live at 210 Northwest 2nd Avenue. We want to first share with those of you that are new, those of you who have been there, that your staff has been great. We are really excited about the direction we're going. The said transformation plan, you know how important that has been to the Set Neighborhood Alliance and the Elders Table. And so we are encouraged with what we hear. We want to make you aware that we want to be in a leadership role. We also believe we want to help you offset some of the cost. And so if you are comfortable with that, we would like to sit with your staff. Community is willing to pitch in. There is no more important document than this, and we wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, ready to move on? 8C, this would be Ashlyn again.
Yes. So I know we've all heard a lot about the Redevelopment Advisory Committee at past meetings. So at the last meeting, the board gave us direction to amend the resolution to include renters, individuals who owned property by a trust, a homesteaded property by trust, and individuals who owned property through marriage. So we made those amendments. We also made amendments to the number of members, so it would be up to 8 instead of 5. And we made an amendment to the term. Instead of 2 years, it would be 1 year. So those amendments are all, or those changes are all included in this new amendment. And at this time, we just need to know if the board would like to pass that amendment.
All right, do you need a motion to approve these, the amendment?
Yes,
Then I need
and
a motion to, any
Are we-
comments first?
Do we want to discuss it first?
Yes, please, I'm sorry.
I want to say that at this moment, I think we should table this. And here's, if you don't mind, just for a moment, here's why. We're starting our steering committee, and we're going to be working on the set transformation plan. We've hired 2 new employees to the CRA, and Renee and I Ms. Jadising and I, discussed the fact that we're probably going to need to hire somebody to, in part, help facilitate this group. So that is one thing. The meeting prep takes a great deal of time. These individuals that represent these zones would be, I talked to Attorney Jelen, and she believes they should be under the sunshine regulations, which means staff would have to speak with all 8 leaders of these zones individually. It's a lot of time commitment for our staff. It's taxpayer money and staff time. And the reason why I'm wondering if we shouldn't just table it, if we need to, we can create a task force. If you say this particular area is being redeveloped, we're not sure what to do, we create a task force for that certain area, and we work it that way. But we all sat down and discussed the West Atlantic redevelopment plan, and the taxpayers paid $100,000 to get that information to us. Are we going to, no disrespect to any of the people who are willing to give their generous time and volunteer to help us, are we going to not go with the professionals we paid $100,000 for? So in part, I think we're almost wasting people's time if we're asking them to sit on a board, serve us, and give us information when I know I'm probably going to go with the expert we paid on how to redevelop. That being said, plus I'd like to focus on the steering committee and this revitalization of the set transformation plan, or if people are calling it the West Atlantic plan, whatever each individual group is calling it, I'm committed to that process. But now you're talking about creating a steering committee for staff to be overseeing and simultaneously committing a working group. It's a lot to ask for our staff. Our CRA has consistently been highly regarded in the area and in the state for what we've accomplished, and I want to keep that up. I don't want our staff to be working hard to do things that aren't going to serve our overall purpose. So I would say to you, I am not in favor of this right now, and I would like if maybe we would all consider, because of the cost to the taxpayers and the time for our staff, if we can create an as-needed task force for when we're considering redevelopment. Thank you.
Commissioner Long?
Renee, do you feel that your staff would be overwhelmed by having this board at the same time we're creating a steering committee?
Well, I do think it's a more work. Like you mentioned, hiring someone. You'll see later on we're taking on the 98 Northwest Fifth Avenue building because we've had 3 unsuccessful bids for that space. Mm-hmm. So we're having one of our staff members who has responsibilities now go there, but eventually we'll have to hire someone. So my thought was that person can work on the advisory committee, kind of coordinating, facilitating. I know this is just 1 year now, so depending on what happens next, but that was kind of like my plan, what I was thinking, because it's taking on another group plus doing the outreach for the West Atlantic set plan, which takes a lot of time too. So we can absolutely do it. I mean, we work at the will of the board, so if that's your direction, but I mean, it will take time, obviously, to engage and bring them up to speed.
Because we've been working on this for over a year to put this together, and it's finally coming to fruition. So I feel that there's probably been adequate time to sort of plan around how we're going to manage this process and what the function of it's going to be. It's gone through many iterations, and it's really been based on a promise that we made to the community based on community outcry. And I think having that voice of the community in these conversations is critical. Of course, we have expertise and we have staff, but that doesn't account for the people who live in these different sub-districts. Now, at the last meeting, we actually added 3 sub-districts to it, which I thought was a great idea, because now we're making sure that every corner of the CRA district is covered with people who actually live in it and have lived in it for a long time probably. And I think having that voice in the discussion is critical, and that's exactly what the community asked of us. And so that's what Commissioner Burns and I promised. So I'm completely unwilling to change course on this. It's been a long road to get here, and I'd like to see this come to fruition and give the community what they've asked for.
Mayor, could I just answer a few of those questions?
Why don't, Commissioner Burns, why don't you go first?
I'm just going to echo Commissioner Long. We've worked on this for a long time. This committee gives the people a voice, a seat at the table. The community has felt, taxpayers have felt that they have been left out of decisions that are made in their own community, and this gives them an opportunity to be there, not a vote, but a voice, and to be a part of that discussion. So I feel that we are moving more to include community in our conversations. We're, with the commission, we're having more outcry with the community, and I think that this is part of that as well, and it's just as important. So I'm for continuing and moving forward with this.
Mr. Markert, you're there. Do you have any comments?
Yes, I do. First of all, I thought Julie made a pretty good summary of the situation, and the piece of it that frightens me the most is, do we have the resources to be able to do this well? The last thing I want to do is commit to something, and I hear, Angela, I hear you, we committed to the taxpayers and all that, but what I don't want to do and what scares me is if we don't have the staff to manage this properly, we're not going to do a good job with it, and that should not be what we're all about. So I'd ask Renee just a question. Would we be better off holding this for a little while until you've got the right resources, or do you think you can do this and do this well?
Well, I mean, I think how we work always is what we work with what the board's wishes are. So if the board feels that this is the way to get feedback, we'll make it work. I mean, that's not really as much of the issue. I think it's the question is, where does the board want to hear their input from this group, otherwise public comment, there's different options, but we can make it work with whatever the board wishes to do. So
okay,
we're here.
And if I could just, this group will be given particular assignments by the CRA. It's not that they're going to be weighing on every issue. We are going to be coming up with general ideas for them within certain assignments that they would then be working on. Is that the way we're envisioning this?
So the RAC resolution was already set up with 2 assignments. So the 2 assignments
Correct.
currently are general development ideas for the West Atlantic corridor and to review the concept site plan for 600 to 800 blocks of West Atlantic, which you all viewed and some just viewed within the last week or so. Those are the only 2 things that they've been tasked with. And the way it was structured is that the group doesn't assign or tell the board what they want to do. The board tells the group what they want to hear feedback from on, and these are the 2 topics at that time.
And I'm going to let you make your comment.
Thanks. And exactly this sort of is proving my point. Our CRA does a tremendous amount of community outreach, and I think Renee would say some of the people on this list visit her in her office and come to the outreach events we have. If we weren't doing any outreach, I would say this would be a good idea. But because we're doing so much community outreach, I don't think it's necessary. I want the residents to come to me. I don't want somebody who's representing a sub area. When Renee and I discussed, there's some benefits to these things and there's some downside. And she said sometimes this is implemented in areas where you have a lot of population and you kind of need your messaging to be unified and come from one person. But from my perspective, I want people to come to the meeting and use their 3 minutes and give their information. And I know for a fact that before we do anything, we always go out and get community input. So the only thing different here is our staff is going to be spending a lot more time on that because these individuals won't have a vote. And if I may, for Mr. Markert's benefit, because he wasn't here, Chair, the reason why this developed, Mr. Markert, is because we had 2 members of the community that sat on the CRA and had a vote. The prior commission chose to remove them and instead do this, but they had actual vote. And that was, some argued that was political. I don't want to get into it, but this is a compensation that was basically presented by Commissioner Boylston, and I'm not in favor of it. And
That's not entirely accurate, by the way.
I watched the meeting, but I'm not going to debate it. But the point I think that I would like to make is that our staff does an amazing job with community outreach. Our community can contact us at any time. Before we do anything, we always go out, and what I would recommend to save taxpayer money and to save our staff time is that we do task force as needed. I think we've already seen the site plan for the 600 to 800, and I'm sure Renee will be doing some community engagement on that. Beyond that, I think this is a lot for our staff, and I don't want to put taxpayer money and staff time into this.
Renee,
do you want to make a comment?
yeah, if you don't mind. Renee, could you remind the board of sort of the recommendation that you gave us in regards to why we got rid of the 2 other voting board seats, in regards to kind of the issue with the fact that we weren't supposed to really have that set up per what the regulations are for a CRA?
So yes, so it was at the city commission, but there was when the city commission made the change from fully independent to city. If I'm getting this correct. They did that, but after there was a legal opinion from the attorney general that once you make that change, you can't go back. So I think there was a change to have the 2 independent removed because could be an issue of not complying with that legal opinion. But that was at the city commission, so I think that's what.
Right. Okay.
Yes, that
And
was it.
I could bring it up with Ms. Jellin when we're at a meeting, but we made that decision based on the legal recommendation. It was not for political reasons, which is what you were implying.
Okay,
Commissioner.
that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, but I also want to comment on the actual issue
Let's
of the
comment on
rack.
this. Let's stay on this track.
Fair enough. So, again, you just said, Renee, that it's not necessarily going to be a staff issue, that you guys will figure it out like you always do. So I don't really see that as a reason. I don't see this as a zero-sum game, that if we are having additional community engagement in a more focused, formalized way as part of this like focus group committee, why that in some way diminishes the aspect of community members coming in to speak with the CRA or with us as individuals. I feel like having both things is a good thing. Having more community engagement is a good thing. And having a focus group to look at these specific issues and be more involved directly in the decision-making process rather than just coming to us here or coming to have meetings with us, I think is critical. I think it's critical that the community feels like they have a stake in this, that the stakeholders feel like they have a real voice at the table. And so again, for me, I don't really see where the issue is. Renee said repeatedly that they can handle this. So I really don't see a reason why we would back out of this after spending over a year, finally getting a structure around it.
Excuse me, Mayor, for the record, may I just say that there are a number of communities in the state of Florida that have independent CRA members. There was no requirement.
Okay, we're not second
Just
guessing
saying
a legal
for the
decision.
record.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
We can get back to that question.
I appreciate that.
It does look like staff is going to have to do more work, because I'll tell you the way I feel about this. There's no 2 more important areas that the CRA should be focusing at the moment than those 2 items right up there. And I believe that citizen input is really important. I've been on the other side of when this decision was made and I wasn't involved, and I didn't feel great about it, but when I was involved and they still voted against me, I felt better about it. So, I think that I think we should try this. If it doesn't work, it's for a year. And I have to tell you, I think a lot of people come up with a lot of good ideas that we may not have thought of. And they may just be a small idea, but it may make the difference in a project. So my inclination is to go forward and try to do this. I apologize if it's going to increase your workload. Not really apologizing hard, but I am apologizing. And but I think we've gone down this path. We've had people submit their names. I think we ought to at least give it a shot to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, because of the reasons you say, then we will have wasted maybe a year.
May I make a suggestion?
Certainly.
Could we create it then? Would you be amenable to creating this as a task force? Because the task force would be on a case-by-case basis versus if you create this group, you're committing to this group and you're committing a particular amount of time, meetings per year, et cetera.
Well, we didn't commit to them. What did we commit to? Meetings?
4 meetings per
We
year.
had 4 meetings a year, yes.
So we came up with this tentative schedule. So 1 kickoff meeting and then just the 4 meetings through the year. So next June would be the end point.
So
Do
would
you
a
need a
task
motion?
Hold on.
would a task force would be less cumbersome in terms of the creation, correct? Because once you create this, you don't really go back from it. We see that
Well-
with advisory boards.
Well, I mean, because you have the resolution, it's
Correct.
a little more, there's processes in there to undo the resolution. So that part, Yes, but the work-wise, it's the same because we'd
It's
have
the
to
same
talk
work,
to the
but
same
it's,
people.
if
So
you,
we've already
It's
got a
more for the
resolution in
board.
place, we've already got a list of people in front of us.
Right.
It's gonna be the same thing, I say we try.
well,
for
no,
you.
the task force you could remove tomorrow. And the resolution, you cannot back out of that quickly.
Right, we have no resolution right now.
That's right.
It wasn't voted on because
So
of
if
the
we did a task
modifications.
force, we would do it on a trial basis. We would see how the staff feels about it, how much more work, if the community appreciates their involvement in it, and we do it for the one item under consideration, 600, 700, 800, or the other, or both combined. And then once we're done, we say, did this task force, did the applicants who participated appreciate it? Did they think they were valued? Does it, did the staff feel there was a benefit, and did we? And if we say yes, then let's move forward with the
Well, I
rep.
have to tell you, I mean, we've already had, if we're concerned about putting staff to work and doing all this work, there's already been a lot of work going into this. And I think we owe it to staff who put together this list, the applicants who filed, and the putting together the resolution to at least give it a try. It's a year. And
Well,
if we have to unravel stuff down the road, it's not like it's a difficult mission to do. This is a volunteer board and with the recommending authorities. So it's not, you were saying?
Well, if we're considering the year, do you want to add in here that it ends in 1 year? Would that make me more comfortable as just a suggestion to kind of?
Yes, I think that
because
would
right
be.
now at the termination, there's like a procedure in here to terminate, I believe.
Then we can amend the resolution to say that this will be, this body will be in position for a period of 1 year. Would that satisfy everybody initially?
We'll look at what the language is now, because we had it as 2 years and then they can be reappointed. So we'll read in what the termination is for the term.
As long as the language is in there to renew it or reappoint after that year, that it doesn't just sunset with no plan on what to do after that.
Because I'm generally in favor, of citizen engagement. So
As long as if it's working, we have the ability to continue it after that year.
yeah,
I'm on
well, we
board.
would want to continue. If it's successful, we certainly want to continue.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I just don't think you go wrong with citizen engagement.
But they're getting no more benefit than what they have coming in for 3 minutes. But they
Then-
use a lot of
then
our
they're gonna
staff
get a-
time.
You
I'm
know,
sorry,
sometimes
I
there's
just
overlap.
respectfully, I disagree. But that's fine.
So right now with the modification, it says the members shall serve for a 1 year term. That's it. So the resolution itself does not have a termination. So the board would have to rescind or make a vote to undo the resolution once you pass it. But the term for the current, what you're appointing would be just 1 year. And you can reappoint after that.
So
for
in
the
the
year.
end of a year, we could reestablish the resolution. We could just agree to amend the resolution to continue.
You
for example.
can change the term, right? So the resolution will be in place, the structure will be there, but the individual's term, so say 6 months or so, you think you want to keep it going, you can amend the term in here, because right now it's just 1 year.
But to address the issue in case this doesn't work, and we're 1 year down the road, I don't want to be in a position to be compelled to appoint people for something that we didn't feel worked. But then again, I don't want it to look like it's a sunset either, so that it dies. I want the thought that it could continue.
So right now, it can.
Giving,
It can. So there's a procedure for vacancies. So 3 months before the expiration or upon removal of a board member, this executive director will post for reappointment. So if you want to change that vacancy procedure, because the vacancy procedure would kick in before the 1 year term ends. So if you want to just have 1 year, see how it goes, and don't put out again to get new members, you can remove that vacancy procedure. So that way we won't seek new members towards the end of the term, if you want to see what happens in a year. Otherwise, this is requiring us to put this out before the end of the term.
right, to fill
Correct.
vacancies.
Right.
Could we just put some kind of meeting on the books towards the end of the term that forces us to have the conversation to evaluate how it's going and then decide if we're going to go through that vacancy process?
Yes, we can do that. So we can change this vacancy procedure into something else. We can remove
Like an
it.
item on the agenda for that
Right. We
meeting?
could say that now that we have this schedule, we can say that a few months before the end, we will bring this to the board to reevaluate continuing, and we
See
can
how it
actually
worked, et
write
cetera.
that, correct.
Does that work?
Yeah.
That's fine with me. Is it fine?
That's fine.
Does it work with you?
Yes.
Do
I'm
that,
sorry.
do it in the month, do it in the month of April.
April. Okay,
Yes.
that's fair.
All right. Do we
So-
need a motion?
Do we need to, what do we need now, Ashlyn?
So if you are wanting to approve the resolution, we'll need a motion to approve the
As amended by all of our, right?
Yes, as amended, and then you would go on to appoint, but the resolution needs to be signed before you go on to appoint, so that it's in effect.
Bless you.
I'm gonna have to hide my pen.
A motion to approve.
Second.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
No, sorry.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
and Chair Carney.
Yes.
I'll have Tracy pass the chair the resolution so he can sign it.
Huh? I think we each get,
So
I don't know how.
I can answer that.
Yeah, why don't we ask
The,
the person to
It's
set
in
it
the
up for us?
resolution.
The appointment will
yes.
be, it is in the resolution, it is by your chair number, starting with chair 1. And you can appoint from any of the sub-areas.
Oh, sorry?
That's, Tom is chair 1, right?
Yes, so,
So Tom, you get the first, do you have the list in front of you, Tom?
I do not.
Okay, that's not
It's
helpful.
Exhibit A.
Okay.
any-
well, I guess one question is, do you all want to pick what sub-area you select from? Do you want to go in order? Because that wasn't set out in the resolution. We do have like a random number generating website that we can pull numbers for you, or you can pick your own.
Should we just go in order, and then when someone picks from a sub area, that area is off the table, and then we move to the next sub area?
That would be up to the board, however you want, or we can do it randomly. So either way.
What's this?
It's whatever you guys want. I'm gonna have to defer anyway. I've been traveling all week. I haven't had a chance to look through most of the resumes yet, so.
Okay,
Well, I can pick tonight.
I'm sorry?
I will pick tonight.
Fine, why don't we, how would you normally do this? Would you just go by each commissioner, just,
Yep.
and have them choose, and they can choose whatever sub-area they want until we've exhausted them, and then we can move forward.
So we do have to start with chair 1 as it's in the resolution.
Okay, Tom, you have so you're gonna need to defer, correct, Tom? Because you don't have the list in
Yes.
front of you?
I'm going to need to defer, correct.
Okay, so chair 1 defers.
Then we would move to chair 2.
I would choose Mr. Spear, Sam Spear, in sub area 6.
Where you go, Sam?
That was mine.
So we
I
have-
took off both of yours?
That's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Well,
We've been copying all each other's notes all the time. That's a joke, by the way, everyone. We don't look at anything.
so that takes sub area 6 off the table completely.
All right, 6 is off.
Okay.
Who's the next seat? Seat 3?
Yes, C3 would be next.
Who's seat 3?
Julie.
I
Here's
just
3.
chose.
Who's seat 2?
We go in the same order as the mission. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
He deferred.
Rob,
He
I'm
deferred.
4. I'm
I
seat
went.
4.
You went.
And then
So
So
you're
then
so
4 would
yes,
be
you're
next.
goes
Okay,
next.
Angela Hill,
Which one is that? Okay, so that's sub area 4.
sub area
So
4.
4 is off.
Okay.
All right. Angela, I would like her too. Okay.
Seat 5 next.
So I would be next. All right. Where do I have my names here picked out? Robin Keller, Area 5.
And then do we keep going?
Now we go to Tom Markert again, correct?
Yes, it would go
I'll
back
need
to
to
1.
It-
I'll
it's-
defer again.
So you're first. So we have 2 deferrals, right? So I don't want to lose count. So we've got a total of 5 votes cast, 2 of which are deferred. So there's 3 more appointments.
Well, so we did it so that we'd have 1 per sub area. So if you want to keep going or just hold at the 3 and then
Right, because we're out of sub areas because you have no one for 1,
Right.
7, 3.
Well,
Which is-
we have 8,
But
and we
don't-
have
We have 2 and 8, but Commissioner Long and Markert deferred.
right.
right. So what are you recommending, Ashlyn? Or
I'll defer to our
So-
executive
I
director.
always defer to the
So
attorney,
Commissioner
understanding you're an
Markey gets
attorney.
two, and Commissioner Long gets two?
Well, so that's the question, because we only have 5 sub areas represented. So
Right.
if we have the 2, once we can appoint, then we won't have any other options at this point to select. My question was if we want to reopen the applications for sub areas 1, 3, and 7.
Sure.
Otherwise, they stay vacant.
Well, so considering we have deferrals, we have 3
So-
appointed, we'll open up the things for those particular sub-areas, so that in the next, right, is that what we're doing?
I thought we talked about those sub-areas not being included because there's no development in that area. Like, why did we omit those in the first place?
Well, we only, because at first we said there would be only 5 members, no more than 1 per sub area. But
Right.
at the last meeting, there was direction to have 8 sub areas. So every
Right.
sub area has representation.
Right.
So but we didn't get applications from those sub areas. So that was the question of what we want to do with sub areas 1, 3, and 7.
And and that may still happen. You know, a sub-area 1 may never, we
Right.
may never find
Right.
anybody from one.
And then it'll be
See that
empty.
they
So
would.
then.
And then
right.
we'll have to choose one from another sub-area.
Well, I don't know that we would do that. You're saying
No.
if we can't find one for one, we wouldn't go to another area, we just wouldn't fill that seat.
Right, because
Correct.
it's set up
Okay,
that
all right,
no,
that's
it's
right,
set
all
up
right,
1
that's
per
right.
sub area,
That's
correct?
right,
So
that's
if
correct.
we never have anyone
correct.
from 1, then it'll just be 6 members. And the number, 7, because there's no voting, so it doesn't matter even odd, it's fine just to have 7 if we don't ever have anyone from sub area 1.
I find it amazing that we didn't get anybody from West Atlantic,
Well,
that sub-area.
the area, well, yeah, it's
Well,
right on
there's-
the avenue. That's
Well, there's still a couple blocks on both sides,
Thank you.
which is kind of like in the heart of what we're doing. I sure would like to have somebody from that
Well, we
sub-area.
maybe we
on
will
this
now.
board.
Maybe after this meeting there'll be.
Well, there's 2. I don't know if they were contacted
Which,
the spouse.
yes, we called several times
Okay.
and did not receive a call back, and emails as well. Okay.
So we have 2, 3 tonight.
We have 3.
We have 3, yes. So we set up, and so actually, when you mentioned the person who, maybe she's out of town, we offered for the individuals who could qualify under the new rules to supplement their application. So if they do, we can bring that to the board because they submitted timely before the end of the term. So back to the dates. So this is the schedule that we had put in place. So the kickoff meeting would be in June and the first meeting in September. So since we do not have the 5 members or whatever it will be, we can push back the kickoff until after our July meeting since we have the deferrals, and then still start it up in September.
Okay. So we're finished with this agenda item, right? I think?
Yes.
Okay. We are now going to 9AA, which is right? Is that the next one we're going to, right?
Yes.
9AA, which is the item which was pulled 7D of the consent interlocal agreement with the City of Delray Beach CRA and for the funding of the fence installation for the golf carts.
Yes. So I pulled this item. I've had a note from the city attorney that we wanted to look at the termination provision together. So I wanted to see if you all would be comfortable with approving this, subject to Lynn and I speaking about the termination provision, because she said that she wants to do some modifications. And just for this item, this was a extension to a place where our golf carts for the Green Market are held in the Old School Square garage. And the agreement also includes our storage there, because they have been kept there. We just never had an agreement. We just had them in the city public area fenced in. So we had to tweak the agreement a little bit, but I think with what it is now, she'd like to do some modifications to the termination. So
Okay, so
if that's comfortable, it's not a major thing, or we can just pull it and wait till July. But if we can approve it now, Lynn and I can speak and then sign it with the chair after.
so moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Burns.
Temporarily absent. So we're now at the notice of intent to lease 9A two buildings. This is for Christine. You are there, Christine. I see you, yes.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Christine Tibbs, Assistant Director. So this is actually 3 buildings that we have on Northwest 5th Avenue. We have vacancies at 98 Northwest 5th Avenue, 135 Northwest 5th Avenue, which is the West Settlers Building, and 186 Northwest 5th Avenue. This is the Harvell House, which is the teal one on the corner of 5th and 2nd, Northwest 5th and Northwest 2nd. So at the January 23rd, 2024 board meeting, we did provide an update that said 3 tenants are moving into the 98 Northwest 5th Avenue building. They will be a hair salon, which is Touch of Posh, a plant-based cafe, Rabbit Hole Cafe, and a multimedia company, the Atlantic Current. So they will be moving into 3 of 5 of the first floor tenant bays. So 98 Northwest 5th Avenue will have still has 2 vacancies, Suite 103 and 104. The CRA board approved a rental rate for those 2 suites at $18 a square foot. So the overview of the lease terms would be 4 years with 2 options to renew for 2 years each, so a total of 8 years, potentially $18 per square foot with a 6% increase annually, and there would be a negotiable build-out period. For 135 Northwest 5th Avenue, the West Settlers Building, one of the first 4 bays that we have there, it is the one that is more north, Unit 2C or 6C, depending on how you're referencing. It's about 875 square feet. We'd like the board's direction tonight on the lease amount, which should take into account the association fees, which are $402 per quarter. And those are paid to the West Settlers Condominium Association, which the CRA does manage. So currently, Unit C6 is occupied by Danny Mesidor. He operates Jackson Hewitt Tax Service out of there. He has a revocable license agreement with the CRA. He currently pays $1,495.75 a month. He did previously have a lease with the CRA. He has been in the space since 2014. And his previous lease was $1,093.75 a month, plus the condominium assessment. So at this time, we're recommending lease terms of 4 years with 2 options to renew for 2 years each, so a total of 8 years. $21 a square foot with a 6% increase annually, and that would take into account the $402 condominium association. And depending on the tenant that gets selected, a build-out period is open for negotiation. Next up is Harvell House, 186 Northwest 5th Avenue. This is larger, approximately 1,100 square feet. We would like the board's direction on the lease amount for tonight. Just additional side note, this is a cottage that's on the city's local register of historic places. And we did complete slight maintenance renovation on the inside, so it is ready to be put out. Similar lease terms, 4 years with 2 options to renew for 2 years, maximum of 8 years total. $20 a square foot, $1 per square foot increase annually upon the 3rd anniversary of the lease, which is a very similar lease amount to 182 Northwest 5th Avenue, which is the yellow cottage right next to this property. And then a build-out period that's open for negotiation depending on the tenant that is selected. So we do intend to publish the notice of intent to lease for all 4 of the units, 2 at 98, 1 at the West Settlers Building, and the Harvell House together Monday, June 3rd, 2024, and have the submission due date be Thursday, July 15th, 2024. So we do intend to lease the properties to qualified individuals or entities for commercial uses with daytime, nighttime, weekend operating hours. Commercial uses being a retail specialty shop, restaurant, cafe, professional offices, financial services, and or gallery, artist gallery workspace as permitted within the central business district, more particularly described in the city's LDRs. Nonprofit organizations, religious institutions, adult entertainment establishments, adult gaming centers, alcohol, tobacco retailers, firearms, weapons, and fireworks retailers, CBD retailers, medical marijuana dispensaries shall be excluded and will not be considered. Those are all exclusions, and these, what we're looking for and what we're not looking for, these were put out with our latest notice of intent to lease for 98 Northwest 5th Avenue. So we aren't putting out something different this time. So the tenant selection process, the CRA staff will conduct preliminary reviews of all timely submitted applications. And then a selection committee comprised of the CRA executive director as the chairperson, 3 CRA staff members, 1 city staff member, and 1 community partner member will meet to review and score the complete and eligible applications. Presentations from applicants may be requested by the selection committee, but aren't necessarily required. The lease agreements for the successful applicants will be drafted by the CRA staff, and the executive director, as previously authorized by the CRA board, will execute these commercial lease agreements. And then we do have our funding assistance available to businesses that occupy CRA buildings. So since these buildings are all in sub-area 4, they will be allowed site development assistance, project consultancy, funding assistance will be also allowed. So at this time, we would like, we're requesting the board provide us direction as it relates to adding any additional specifications to the notice of intent to lease, and then final determination as to the rental rate for 135 Northwest 5th Avenue and 186 Northwest 5th Avenue. I turn it over to the board.
To the board.
When you look at me, I think you're giving me the go ahead.
I am looking at you.
Okay,
to say to go.
I'll go.
I try to go I try to
I know.
alternate sides. And
Thank
move
you.
my
No,
way
you're
in.
very thoughtful. I just want to make sure that you're giving me the go ahead before I start going. 135 Northwest
So I would
5th.
stop you every now and then. Kidding. Go ahead.
Hey. How are our rate compared to, the market rate? What does that look like? I don't even know the market rate. Forgive me.
So we've heard that market rates are anywhere, on the avenue specifically, anywhere between like $50 to $100 a square foot.
Okay.
So at 98 Northwest 5th Avenue, we are doing $18 a square foot.
Okay.
At the Harbell House, which is the Teal Cottage, we are doing $20 square foot plus a $1 per square foot escalator that only happens at the 3rd year and onwards. And then we're at 135. It's $21 a square foot that we're recommending, and that is inclusive of the $402 condo assessment. So I would say that we are extremely
Thank you.
affordable
That's what I was looking
compared
to
to
find
what
out.
we've been hearing.
Do we have a lot of applicants? And the only reason why I'm asking this, and I think Mr. Mestor is lovely, and he's a great tenant, and he provides an amazing service for the city, but we've had him in there for a very long time, and I just want to make sure that we're not overlooking qualified applicants if there are a lot of applicants and we are not providing for them in the form of like a startup office. That would concern me if we're keeping one person in for a very long time.
So he did come into the space through a notice of intent to lease process, and he has a revocable license now, and that was at the termination of his previous lease. He was going through his tax season, and it was hard for him to move.
I kind of recall that, actually.
And then right now it's just kind of one of those, we have vacancies that are ready to go, and putting them all out at once allows any potential businesses or individuals or entities to know that you could have a space at 98, 135, or 186 instead of putting them out individually and not giving them ample notice that there are different types of spaces to meet different needs along the same street. So we do have a running list of people that had contacted us and were interested in spaces. So once this goes out, we can, most definitely shoot them the link to the notice of intent to lease and see what we get back. Mr. Mesidor was made aware that, if he wants to stay in this space, he would need to submit a proposal, and it would need to go before the selection committee, and he would need to get selected in order to stay in the space.
Thank you.
So I'll just add to
Thanks.
So when we did this, the process for 98 Northwest Fifth Avenue for the 5 bays, we had 13 applications, and only 3 were selected by the committee. It was staff. We also had a representative from Arts Garage there and from the city staff, so we had a pretty well-rounded group. And at the time, they thought, well, there were certain things that were not, I guess, up to the standard. We were very strict on the numbers. Like, we had our 80% criteria, and if they didn't meet it, then we didn't consider them. So they intentionally actually said, you know what, we're going to just keep it at 3 and not go forward because they weren't comfortable with the applications as they were presented. So they wanted to give everyone a good opportunity to be, selected and considered. So I think looking at Mr. Mesidor, the service it's providing is great because you don't have that on Fifth Avenue. So
Exactly.
I think what we're trying to do is really curate that street to have a walkable area where people can get different things and go to different businesses and have a good experience walking down the street. So I know he's interested in staying.
Okay, good.
But I think what, with the lease that he had, by statute, it ended and we have to put it out to lease again,
Right.
which is why we did the revocable license, because that doesn't require the notice, but it's also kind of, we can pull it at any point. So by doing this notice of intent to lease,
Better
he's
for
welcome
everyone.
to bid. Exactly. And if he's the successful bidder, then he has another term there. But he's been, a great tenant, and we need to just comply with the statute, obviously. So we have to do the notice and just hope for the best. We get some good proposals.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Mr. Long?
I'm on board with the lease options that you guys are recommending. I'd like to try and keep, our good tenants that we do have. I know it's not always easy to come by good tenants, so I'd like to encourage them to keep coming back if possible. And but yeah, what you guys have laid out works for me, frankly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Burns?
What you have works for me as well. No questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Markert?
Yes, I'm fully in favor of this.
Right. And I agree. I think that, stability in the neighborhood is real important. Having consistent business, they're going to keep bringing in. So whether it's below market or not, I think it's a great idea to keep that into the neighborhood. And he's certainly a good addition to that neighborhood. So I'm in favor of that too. And the juice guy's going on the first floor?
That's 98 Northwest Fifth Avenue. Yes. So they're well underway.
He's already got 2. And when you have it, we'll all go. So, huh? Oh, he has this all natural. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
His food is so good.
Good.
Oh, do you?
You go to
Yeah, his
Deerfield?
restaurant. Yep.
Anyway, so I would say
love
that.
it.
So we need a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, sorry.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
and Deputy Vice Chair Margaret.
Yes.
We changed the rule at the commission, by the way, where I can do it by voice vote. That's why which we should
Katerina.
maybe doing here too. I haven't decided yet. All right, 9C.
Right.
Oh no, we're on 9B with the updated second floor, 98 Northwest 5th.
Yes.
Great event, by the way, the other day.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so this is back to 98 Northwest Fifth Avenue. So as you know, we've had 3 bid processes to find either a property manager for the entire building or a co-working shared space operator just for the top floor that were all not successful. So being that we're several months into having this building as finalized from the contractor, we thought that our staff could go there on Tuesdays once a week just to get the doors open and start to encourage some foot traffic, maybe invite in realtors, property managers, so that people can see the space, and invite co-working space operators so they can see it in functioning, and maybe it'll entice people if we do decide to do another bid that will have a little more interest that they're seeing it. Is that the first bids that we did, the building was still under construction. So I think now it's open, it can be open, they can see it, and maybe it will change, put some more interest in the space. So we're proposing to open it just on Tuesdays from 9 to 5. We came up with a little imagery here, either the 2 sessions from 9 to 1 or 1 to 5, or book the full day. And we have here what's included. There's Wi-Fi, there's a communal kitchen, restrooms, you have those private soundproof pods, and we also have lockers for temporary storage. We don't have anything that's kept there overnight. The intent of the space was for you to go there for the day. Maybe you work at home and you want to be out of your office, or you want to have a meeting, you can come here and do that right in the neighborhood. Here's the different areas that we came up with: a free-form pass, a private office desk, private meeting space with a table, or the private couch areas with the sliding glass doors. And pricing, so the intent was always to charge, so this is something that we wanted feedback from the board on your thoughts, but what we came up with was for the freeform, kind of the lower desk tables, $12 a session, and that's the 4-hour session for $12 a session, non-resident $22 a session, and you'll see the other 3 options are $20 a session. For the Delray residents, non-residents would be $30 a session. And then we also have the conference room. So this, we did it at an hourly rate, $15 an hour for Delray Beach residents and $25 an hour for non-residents. So, and this is all booked online, and we just thought we could see how this goes and expand it if need be. And I know we kind of discussed before, eventually we could look to hire someone there. It's kind of similar to how we set up the Arts Warehouse. I think we tried to have an operator there before when it was the Cube, didn't quite work out, so we ended up hiring staff, and now we have 3 people there working, and they're kind of functioning pretty well. So we could maybe see the same thing here, unless we decide to go back to the property management or a co-working operator. But we want to get the doors open. I think that's the biggest thing, is that we have this great space here that community members have already asked if they can come in and use, so we want to put it on a path to opening so that people can use this asset. So just want board's feedback on this. If you think it's a good idea, if you had any other ideas, we're open to suggestions, but this is kind of where we were going with it.
Mr. Long?
I like it. Looks good to me. Well done.
Thank you.
I think it's a good solution for now,
Thanks. Good.
Commissioner Casal?
Thank you. I just think this is another great representation of what our CRA is doing, and I thank you and your staff so much. The prices are remarkably reasonable, and I hope it'll be open more than 1 day a week sometime soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Marker?
Good job.
Yeah, I'm totally in favor of this. I think this looks really clever and is going to meet a need in our community, and I think it's great. So I'm definitely in favor.
Commissioner Burns?
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
I'm in favor of it too. As you know, I went there the other day, and I went there as did Commissioner Burns. It's a great operation. I wish you all a great success. Do we need a motion? This is not an action item, though, is it?
Well, yes, I think so, to open the space, just to put our stamp on it. We had 2 options, or 2 things here: to open the workspace and to continue explore options for activation and management of the space, and also to explore the option of hiring full-time staff to assist with operations and other
Then it
CRA
is an
duties.
action, right. Then I need a motion.
please.
You need 2 different motions or just one?
One is fine.
Okay, motion to approve.
I think we have to say with the CRA staff. Do we have to recommend that? We're going to say that because with your working group, you're going to utilize that staff person.
Well, we that's why we had the other related duties, because they'll be doing other things besides just being at 98, so it's just another person.
So do you need a motion to approve with the CRA staff exploring the option of hiring full-time CRA staff member?
Yes, the motion to include both.
That includes that, yes.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Chair Carney?
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert?
Yes.
Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
Okay. Next is to cancel the request for proposals of the CRA 2024-03. You and I have discussed this, all the different lots. I'm looking forward to the presentation. There is some different thinking on whether or not the lots should be, whether 3 lots are better than 1 in terms of trying to sell things, in terms of getting a developer interested. But I look forward to the presentation.
All right.
Christine, you're up.
So a little history of the item before you. On February 2nd, 2024, RFP CRA 2024-01 was issued for the disposition of the 6 CRA-owned vacant lot properties. On February 27th, 2024, RFP CRA 2024-01 was canceled in an abundance of caution due to a potential cone of silence issue. And on February 28th, the RFP CRA 2024-03 was issued, and that is what is before you now. Wednesday, April 17th, which was the proposal submission due date, the CRA received 3 proposals from, and listed alphabetically, Delray Beach Community Development Corporation, Delray Beach Community Land Trust, Habitat for Humanity of Greater Palm Beach County. Subsequent to the proposal opening, CRA staff reviewed the proposals for responsiveness. On the advice of council, CRA staff does recommend canceling the RFP. The RFP states within Section 7, subsection A, that the CRA reserves its right to cancel the RFP at any time and or reject all submitted proposals and or reissue the RFP. CRA staff is also recommending the board approve the issuance of 3 separate RFPs. They would be titled RFP CRA number 2024-05, 2024-06, and then 2024-07, each for the disposition of CRA-owned vacant lots within the northwest-southwest neighborhoods of the set, to obtain proposals from qualified not-for-profit entities specializing in the development and construction of affordable workforce housing, to develop and construct affordable workforce housing on the CRA-owned lots. So the 6 lots that would be included are the same 6 lots. They're listed before you on the screen: 250 Northwest 8th Avenue, which is the street address for 3 separate parcels, 256 Northwest 8th Avenue, 238 Southwest 14th Avenue, 260 Northwest 9th Avenue. For each RFP, the proposals will have the opportunity to submit a proposal that includes development, construction, and sales plans for the vacant lots as structured, as we're proposing this structure. So the first RFP, RFP CRA 2024-05, would include the 4 lots on Northwest 8th Avenue. So they are, if you go back to the previous slide, they are lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. So those are the 3 250 Northwest 8th Avenue lots and then 256 Northwest 8th Avenue. The second RFP would include 1 vacant lot, and that is 238 Southwest 14th Avenue, which is lot 6. And then the third RFP would include 1 vacant lot, which is 260 Northwest 9th Avenue, and that is lot 5 on the map. The CRA board will have the sole and absolute discretion to award each RFP to 1 responsive and responsible proposer. And the intent of the CRA is to release the first RFP on, which would have the 4 lots, on Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, and have the submission date be Friday, July 19th, 2024. The second RFP, which would have the Southwest 14th Avenue lot, would be released on Wednesday, June 12th, and then have the proposal submission due date be Friday, July 26th. And then the third RFP, which would have the lot on Northwest 9th Avenue, it would be released the following week on June 19th and have the due date be August 2nd, 2024. So at this time, turn it over to the board for discussion and approval to cancel the current RFP, which is RFP CRA number 2024-03, and issue 3 separate RFPs, RFP 2024-05, 2024-06, and 2024-07 for the disposition of CRA-owned vacant lots for the development of affordable and workforce housing.
Great.
I have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Burns.
I would talk to Renee so I understand exactly what's going on, but I just have a question about number 2. Is that 8th Avenue? I know that 1, 4, and 3 are 8th Avenue, but is number 2, that's not 8th Avenue, is it?
No, the address, yeah.
The address it's because they were all tied together under 1 parcel control number at one time and 1 street address. So part of the development process, if the successful proposer gets lots 2 and 3, is going to the city and splitting those lots and getting 2 separate addresses and doing an address change. So right now they are referenced as 250 Northwest 8th Avenue, even though it is not on 8th Avenue.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they were all tied together with the previous owner, and that's how they're referenced in PAPA.
Okay. 1 parcel. They have, oh, yes, they all have 1 part. Yeah.
Well, there's
Well, no. Yeah. Well, two of them have it. Yeah.
2 and then 1 separate. So this is a kind of something that needed to be cleaned up. It was just always this way, and we bought it that way with the understanding
Fine.
that it'll have to get fixed. So
Just mechanics,
that's part
it's
of
fine.
the that's all it is. It's dealing with the city and That's all. So that'll be done when the parcels are developed, to assign addresses.
Commissioner Long, do you have any comment?
I have no issue with redoing it this way, but just for the record, I was under the impression that this was being canceled because of a breach to the non-collusion affidavit from one of the respondents. Is that correct?
Yes.
There's
Okay.
a statement. There was a statement in there that raised concern, and we
Sure.
brought it to our attorney, and they said that the best course of action would be just to cancel it
And that's fine.
reissue. So it
Come
won't
out with
look
a new
like
RFP.
right.
And that's
exactly.
fine. I just
You've
think
just described that the new RFP is going to have those 4 lots in one, lot 5 in one, and lot 6 in one. So you're going to have 3 RFPs, one containing 4 lots, and the other 2 each containing 1 lot.
Correct, right. That we wanted to issue with a different structure, so we're not putting the same thing out to get the same response. So we worked with our outside legal counsel on kind of a method that will hopefully eliminate that issue, since we did have there was a statement that did raise concern for us.
Gotcha.
seems like a good solution.
Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Casal.
Sure, thank you. I guess I would just ask, because that is a strong word, are there consequences? Is that party allowed to rebid on this process?
Well, they are, because once we saw something that raised concern, we brought it to our attorneys, and that was the recommendation, so we didn't continue the review process. So I think if we had continued that and brought it to the board, it could have been something that you look at not allowing them to bid in the future or things like that. But it may have just been a simple
So you
saying
think it
something.
doesn't rise to the level of us
I don't,
taking any kind of action?
I don't think in that sense,
Okay.
because I don't think it was something that was
Thank you.
intentionally. I think it was just a statement made that could be read in different ways.
Okay.
But for our purposes, when we showed it to our attorney, they said, well, we probably should cancel this, just in the abundance of caution, because we do have a non-collusion affidavit that everyone has to sign.
Right.
And, if you have an issue with one, it may cause issue with every single person. So you may end up
Right,
excluding every
across
single
the
person.
board.
Exactly.
Got it.
Great.
Understood, thank you. So when we talked about this, and there are parties, so parties could go out and bid on all 3 of the 2 double parcels. Everybody can come back and bid. But you and I talked about, when I was looking at the qualifications, that we should probably work on our qualifications, because if we went back and looked at in the past, because you started doing this, someone sent a letter of interest, and then this started you down the process. But we should look at our qualifications and say, because we are, disposing of taxpayer property here, a minimum of 10 years of proven experience, and that they provide financials, tax returns, bank statements, and letters from the bank saying that they have the credit to do the project. The individual applicants themselves, not a second party that they are partnering with or some such. And that would be my recommendation. So I recommended that we do go forward, cancel, and then cancel, issue the 3, but I would like from the board to consider implementing those qualifications. Please.
I have a comment on that when I get to me. Commissioner Marker.
I'm in favor of this. I do have one question. When I was looking at the document, I noticed that the PCN number for lots 2 and lots 3 are identical, and I don't know if that's a mistake or if that's the way it's supposed to be.
No, that was the issue that needed to be corrected. So when we purchased the 4 lots together, and somehow they were tied together with this issue. So
Okay.
in order to develop, we'll have to get corrected. But
Okay.
we kind of put it out as we bought it.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Renee.
Sure, no problem.
Commissioner Burns? You're done, okay. Let me just say about the 10 years. I don't want to just exclude someone who's has experience and they have I understand completely about showing their financial capability, having their ability to be able to, get bonded if necessary, have them, the ability to show the financial capabilities. 10 years is a long time because a lot of people leave their company and want to start. These are going to be single home builders. 10 years would be a long time to a qualification period for a commercial structure. I would kind of move in your direction.
Want to go 7?
What do we have now for our qualifications?
It is 5 years with at least 3 workforce housing developments of similar size, scope, and complexity as this RFP.
And you're not happy with 5 years?
Renee and I were talking about it, and in the past, and with other projects, it's.
Has it ever not worked?
Well,
Has the 5 years has the 5 years proven to be not worked for us?
Which Commissioner Casal was mentioning, we've done different methods of putting out these types of bids. In the past, we used to just have a letter of interest from proposers or from interested parties. But when the city implemented the unsolicited proposal policy, which required the $25,000 bond, that applies to us too. So when that happened, I think around that time, we had a letter of interest for a piece of property that we put out our public notice, which used to be just kind of like 1 or 2 pages. So it was very, very minimal. And when we did that, we got back 2 different proposals that were not, you couldn't compare them because they were so different. One was very robust, the other was very slim. So then we kind of came up with this bid. This is the first time we're doing this one, which is kind of like a little bit more like our larger bid process, but less than, it's not what, it's less than our normal bid process for bigger projects, but it's not the simple letter that we used to do to kind of slim it back. So this was like the slimmed back kind of RFP, since it's smaller parcels. So, we haven't really done this, to my knowledge, in this way. This is kind of the first brush. And this is our 3rd time now doing it for various reasons. But I think this time we're going to get it right. We're going to be able to go forward.
The key is to get it done. I guess
Right.
I haven't really thought about the 5 or the 7. I thought 10 was too long. I mean, I generally am in favor of an easier entry into doing business deals for first-time people than more stringent.
It's taxpayer property, so-
I don't really, whatever the commission wants. I mean, 7 years doesn't make much of a difference from 5, I guess, but I've told you what I think in generally speaking in terms of.
If I may chime in on this one.
You may chime.
This is CRA land. It's meant for redevelopment. These are pretty small scale properties. I think 5 years is plenty. I don't think making these less accessible, given the scale of this, really makes sense. I think we should, if we haven't even tested it at this level yet, I think that 5 years is plenty for now for this. So I'm not going to be in favor of making these properties less accessible to people coming in to remodel single family homes. I'd prefer to build. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm looking at the blank lots now, obviously, to build.
My screen's been blank the entire meeting.
Yeah. So I would be.
And I need a passcode to turn it back on, and I don't know the passcode.
We can tell IT.
I've been sharing yours. That's what I was telling you before. I was cheating off your sheet. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm happy to put a motion forward if we're ready for that.
Well, let me just hear about everybody else's comment. Could we? I understand your concerns because it is city property.
It's taxpayer property, and I want it done correctly. And I think when you have people who have experience, you're kind of more apt to get it done correctly. And this is the 3rd time we've gone out. So if you would be amenable to 7, I would appreciate
I think
that.
5 years in home building is really good experience because.
Okay, let's jump to 5, but then let's make sure we implement the financial requirements, which are tax returns provided.
I agree that we
bank
should make sure
statements,
that
and the letter from the bank saying that the applicant
has the ability
to do the job.
Absolutely.
Financial ability to do the job, because that's really the biggest concern. And hopefully they have experience as well, because that's important to me.
So in the bid now, we have some of those things as like either or, so we can just put that they have to put all of them.
All.
Right.
Correct. And primarily important that the bank says that they qualify to do the project, to get the credit to do the project. And as I said, it would be the applicant, not a party that they are connecting to. The applicant themselves has to have the financial ability.
Yeah, we've all been through projects with the CRA, and we've had financial issues with people not being able to complete. It's not so much their ability to complete, it's their ability not to complete, which is what I'm concerned here. So I want to make sure that there is the financial stuff because we don't want to visit this a 4th time.
Yes, and so also too, I'll just comment that we also have a requirement that they have to show that there's evidence that however they're building this, that there's ability to attain a payment and performance bond. So that's already,
correct.
It's there as well.
Right.
So you do, okay, or
Plus all of the other.
or a completion bond, whichever one you
right.
whichever one you choose.
And we're leaving it at 5 years experience?
So 5 years.
Well, trust me, your bonding agency is going to be real.
I know, but
going to pay a lot of attention to your experience.
We should as well, because it's our job, right?
Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
it's kind of like having an overseer.
I agree. Yeah, for sure, I like it.
So it's 5 years, at least 3 comparable projects.
Yeah.
5 years. Do we want to do 3 comparable projects or more?
Well, how would you do?
I would
3
say
comparable?
more is better.
These are small lots. I'm just saying, I mean,
know, but-
yeah, if this were a commercial
Mayor, we're
property
doing
on
this for the
Atlantic, we would
third
have
time for a
I would be,
reason.
I would be making it much stricter than they would even propose it.
Yeah, do we
No,
need
I
to
just-
really keep nickel and diming this for single-family
It's
lots?
not nickel and diming,
Okay,
it's the
good.
taxpayer's
All right.
property.
We have a consent.
job
so
to oversee
if
it.
Mr. Long, if you'd like to make a motion.
I would. I'd like to move approval for item 9C with the amendments, I guess, to take out the and/or and just make it and for the financials.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
and Commissioner Long.
Yes.
Great. All right. Now we have the modifications to the A guide. This is all very important, everybody. So,
Yes.
Renee.
Okay. Last item.
Commissioner Marker, do you know what the A guide is? Because you're new.
Yes.
Okay, you do. All right.
Yes. Okay. So, A Guide is a program we've had for many years to support the nonprofits that would assist the CRA in functions that we couldn't necessarily do, but they're kind of like an extension of us. So we've had this program for many, many years. But as the statutes has changed to make it a little bit more of a brick and mortar functions for CRAs, we looked at A Guide and started to make modifications in the last year or so. So the groups that were prior getting funding from A Guide, well, they currently are now the library, the community land trust, the Spady Museum, yes, Historical Society, yes, and Arts Garage. So those are the entities currently. But as we've made the modifications, we were proposing to make it more of a housing function focused. So this would be supporting housing entities or groups providing housing services that are on CRA or city property. So we've gone through the draft. I've had a couple meetings. It's probably for some, you've seen this many times, but we do want to get the final approval with the modifications to, have it be supportive for affordable housing initiatives and removing the recreation and cultural facilities and economic and business development. I think currently we don't have any groups that are really falling under the economic business development. It's just the the cultural and recreational facilities.
But in moving those out, those two portions out, there's nobody now that we're excluding, right?
So not this year. So our funding goes through September 30th. So the discussions that we've been having with the city since last year or so is that the city would take on funding the groups instead of the CRA, and the city would look in the budget for places that we could fund in place of the city, maybe like some landscaping or capital improvements that would qualify for CRA funding. So this is something that I've been speaking with Jeff Orris, he's not here, about how that shift will happen. We tried to do it last year, but we weren't successful in making that transition. But last year, that would be this fiscal year, the city's provided us $450,000 for supporting the A Guide groups that they will be taking on, I guess, in the coming year. So it is something that'll need to be discussed during budgeting. So currently there's no changes, but when we put the application out, most will not be able to apply because the funding would be, I guess, coming from the city. So
the list that you just provided us,
yes,
the possible exception.
Community Land Trust is the one that would be
The land
able,
trust will
correct,
still
since it's a
apply.
housing focus, they would still be able to apply,
Right.
because they are on city property. The other entities, though, would not. So I know I think I even just got an email from one of the groups like, what's happening, what's going on? So, been constant communication with the city to kind of see how this transition, but we have been talking about it
Well,
for
this is the trend. I mean,
some time.
the CRAs to get away
yes.
from funding all these and strictly to their core.
Yes, when the statute changed, we actually made like a whole Excel sheet with all of our different functions and what we're doing and how it ties back into the statute. So this was one where we had a couple year transition plan that I think that we're at the point now. Oh, sorry.
Is the city
Casal.
on board, with the plan? Are they ready? In other words, is the city ready to handle the oversight of the A Guide? Okay, I know, don't laugh. It's a reasonable question.
No, it is a reasonable question.
Renee, I guess my question to you is, instead of swapping out do we have to do this now? Can we give this one more year? And here's why I asked Mayor, because well, if you're saying we're going money to money, right? 450,000, we'll figure out a way to do this and they'll figure out a way to do that. My other concern, my bigger concern, aside from the money, is who's going to be overseeing the A-Guide? Who's going to make sure that the money going out is accounted for, et cetera, et cetera. I was wondering if perhaps we could delay this for 1 year. If we are just going to be swapping money, then could we delay moving out these A-Guide groups, the Library Spady and the Arts Garage, for 1 more year, if my commission fellow board members would be amenable? But is it okay to do that?
I think we're legally allowed to do that.
That's my question.
Well, I mean, if the board votes, again, we are kind of just pushing out, kind of what we need to shift over at some point. So, and the total number, the 450,000 was only half
Right.
of the amount. So the total that the city would, or that swap potentially would be looking to do, is about $900,000.
Right.
And excluding the
Tennis?
the community, no, that's not A-Guide. That's just,
Right. I mean, but is that, we're removing that out too or not?
that's something we'd have to discuss. We haven't gone to there yet, but
Which is that?
The tennis is
tournament.
900,000.
That's a 900.
I know that's not A-Guide, but that's still an expense.
909.
I
That's
think
different, yes.
my big concern sitting up here, and I know I'm wearing this hat tonight, but we wear both hats, is one, I don't know if the city's ready to take this. So how are these applicants going to even know if they're getting money? Have they met with the city yet? Do you know, has there been any onboarding going on?
No.
Does anybody know?
Well, I've been in communication with the city, and what I've heard is that it'll be talked about during goal setting. So we'd have to wait to see what happens during goal setting, which is where we were last year. And then I think during
We
the
had goal
budgeting,
setting.
Like I said, did we just have?
Oh,
this?
right, it
I don't-
didn't- well, it
I don't
didn't have
recall- I don't recall this conversation.
it didn't come up. But then it would happen during budget cycle, which maybe it'll be in the next month or so.
I think both the Commissioner, Board Member Casal is correct that the commission is going to have a lot of questions with respect to money it's got to spend.
Right.
And I think these entities are going to need a lot of advance,
Well,
warning on
And I
what's
don't
going to
think
happen.
they-
And I don't know that,
have it.
I don't know how you all feel. I think that it's a big process, this transition, and it's going to now
Yeah.
impose a burden on the city that it's going to have a myriad of other burdens that it's going to be faced with.
Right.
And, but again, I understand the function of why, the redevelopment dollar stays on the redevelopment side and all this other kind of stuff, and that I agree with. But the timing is a fair question, so I don't
Right.
know. And I understand that it's kicking the can down the road for another year. I understand that's exactly what we're doing, if we do it.
Yeah, bit of a conundrum. So, we haven't, as a city commission, really had a chance to talk about this issue yet. And so I agree that I don't necessarily want to move this direction until we know that we're ready to fund these organizations potentially as a city, because I don't want to be in a position where our library or Spady or the Arts Garage doesn't get funding for a full year potentially because we haven't set this up right. And so I do think that we need to talk to it as a city commission and make sure we have our ducks in a row, but before we unload it from the CRA. And I know we need to do it from the CRA, that potentially it's kind of in a gray area that we don't necessarily want to be in. Right. But my primary concern is making sure that our library, Spady, and the Arts Garage do not get left in the lurch on this.
All of which are important components to the
Right.
redevelopment of all those areas, and
Yeah.
but we haven't even had our first budget meeting yet. I don't even
Right.
know what the proposed budget looks like.
Right.
And
And typically, don't
if
we?
they don't have lines for these guys in it, there's
Well, and we don't know. And typically we decide in July or close to August how we're funding them. So now these organizations are probably all losing sleep over wondering if they're getting funding. And I
sure.
just don't think that's fair.
Right.
I feel like maybe if we could just retain those here in the CRA and just say for sure it's only 1 year, and then have the city work towards figuring out how they're going to transition and not transition in the last moment, but, you know,
Right.
after we get our budget implemented, start the transition process.
So do you want to table this till after the budget discussion? Because what we've done before, we can joint notice the city goal setting. So if you do talk about scary items, there's no issue. Or do you want to not approve this and just go back with the original A guide for 1 year? Or just wait? Because we don't have to put this out now. We usually do it now because we have presentations and all that. We don't have to do presentations to the commission. They're, you know, I'm sure you're familiar with the organizations. I don't think there'll be any new organizations. So if we skip the presentations, that usually happens around August, it'll cut back on the time that we need to process review, no presentations, to allow you to have the budgeting conversations at the city and just bring this back up later.
Commissioner Marcus, you have thoughts out there?
Yeah, I do. A couple things. It feels like this is putting the cart in front of the horse, certainly vis-a-vis the budgeting challenges that we know we're going to face in the coming months. So I would be in favor of deferring this for a year if we could, just so we can get through the other big challenges that we're facing. And I agree with what Rob said. Like, we need to study this more and make sure we make the right call here, because we don't want to have any of our treasures closed down because we made a mistake. So I'm in favor of deferring this one.
Commissioner Burns?
Yeah, I would be in favor of deferring it. However, how long do we have to kick the can down the road? Because I thought we had a conversation last year where you were concerned that we could get slapped on the wrist for continuing it. So just clear it up for me.
That's still an issue. I mean, a lot of CRAs have, transitioned away from funding nonprofits, these types of nonprofits, or coming up with a transition plan. So if our transition plan is 1 more year, then I think it has to be 1 more year, and we can't keep going. And this year was better because we did receive $450,000 from the city, so that helped. So I think as long as we're getting something back and we have a transition plan, we're still in jeopardy. We're still putting ourselves at risk by not doing it now. But I understand balancing these entities are very important to the city, and
Well, I could also argue they also have contributed to the redevelopment and continue to do so.
right.
I mean, the library and the Spady certainly do.
Yep.
Arts Garage certainly does with
Right.
their programming. So,
Yeah.
so it's obviously up to the board. So we can push it back a year and just put the A guide out now, and that'll give the groups time to respond. We had already planned to budget for an amount, whether it was giving it to the city for capital projects,
Right.
so we were already in our minds kind of planning for that. So it's not really going to affect us
it's our same
financially.
dollars. It's the same dollars, right?
Exactly, right.
Right.
It's the same. We already earmarked having to pay something. It was just, we didn't know what it was going to be for.
May I ask another question?
Sure.
So here's an idea, because we could put it over to the city if you're contributing dollars somehow or another. Could the CRA still oversee it, or is that not possible? My bigger concern, part of my concern is the city ready to do it, and can they oversee it? How, and that's the question. So can the CRA oversee it and the city pay for it, and then you're moving your money however you're moving it to the city, in other words, working together on it, but eliminating the concerns you have that we're not doing the right thing in terms of how we're required to utilize our finances?
Well, I think whether we're managing or the city, the money, it's really following where the money is being spent. So it's still spent on the
Got
city
it.
entities and functions,
Understood.
whether it's housed here or there.
Okay.
I think pretty much all of the groups have some kind of a leasing management agreement with the city. Some have
Yes.
funding tied to it, some don't. So I think in the brief conversations I had, it was about changing the dollar amount. They would just be receiving, but that conversation didn't get it wasn't fully hashed out yet. So.
Okay, then I think we are 90. What are we doing? Did we just saying?
I think we got to punt it until we figure out what we're doing as a commission.
So, right.
Can we word that a little bit better?
That's verbatim. I can't.
So are we, So are we continuing A guide for 1 year?
Yes, I move that we continue the A guide. I mean, I don't move, but someone will move that we're going to continue the
With the transition understanding that next year will be
understanding that.
So
to
moved.
the city.
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes. thank
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
and Chair Carney.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Casal.
Did we have
It
a
was very, very
second for
good
that
point.
motion?
you. No, we did not.
We
We
didn't
didn't
have
have
a
a second.
We didn't
Because
have-
I'll
the
second it.
mayor actually
No,
meant.
I
made the
heard, yeah,
motion.
Margaret second, you just didn't hear him.
I'll second it.
There he
Thank
is.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Attorney. Other business. Any comments by the Executive Director?
Yes, I do. Thank you for joining us at the social. We had a good time, good conversation. And actually, I wanted to bring up that, as you know, we were seeking input on activation for Libby Wesley Plaza for the DDA. We had one of their board members there, and we're actually meeting probably in a week or so to kind of continue that discussion. So, I want to thank everyone for joining us for that feedback, and that conversation will be continuing on. And thank you to our board members that were able to join us. The next one will be actually a joint meeting with the city at the Old School Square Field House. So the city was already planning to do their town hall meeting on July 25th. So we thought it'd be great to kind of tag both of our entities together. And then we will, oddly enough, be talking about budgeting. So that will be a great opportunity to come and hear from both CRA and the city about what's going on with us in budgeting, and also the city as well. And then we also have dates through the end of the year already scheduled. Next, the Green Market starts this Saturday, the summer market. We do have a full lineup of great vendors, but we also have an opportunity for rotating booths. So if anyone, or anyone, or anyone listening has a booth that they can't commit to a full season, but they want to pop in, we do have space available for that opportunity as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Great. Comments by our board attorney?
No comments.
Oh, good. Comments by our commissioners? Anybody? Commissioner Marker?
None.
No, I just want to congratulate you again for that event. I think it was great. I think your socials are great. The people you have there are great, and you have such innovative ideas there that if you have not gone to see this facility on Northwest Fifth Ave, you really have to go. You really have to go. You got some great stuff there. But anyway, I think we're finished. Yes, all in favor of a motion to adjourn? Anybody adjourning? Yes, we're adjourned.
Aye.
All right.
Yes, you have to show